What if I told you that slavery never ended, it just evolved? It doesn't wear shackles anymore. It doesn't live on plantations. It lives in boardrooms, on screens, in inboxes, in gig apps, and in calendars so full they crush the soul. It lives in our obsession with productivity, in our addiction to achievement, in our fear of stillness. We think we're free because no one's holding a whip. But what if the whip has become invisible? What if we've internalized it? What if we're now our own masters, pushing ourselves harder than any overseer ever could, not because we're forced to, but because we're afraid not to? Let's be brutally honest. Most of us don't work because we love it. We work because we're scared. Scared of falling behind. Scared of being irrelevant. Scared of poverty. Scared of judgment. We tell ourselves we're chasing dreams, but more often we're running from something: anxiety, guilt, the haunting sense that we're not enough. So we keep moving, keep grinding, keep building resumes, chasing promotions, diversifying income streams, optimizing our morning routines. But for what? For freedom? Or for a cage that looks a little nicer every year? Ask yourself, if you stopped working tomorrow, would you still know who you are?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
The ancient philosophers warned us about this. But Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And yet here we are, living longer than ever, but feeling chronically behind. How is that possible? Because we've come to believe a lie so massive, so deeply embedded in our culture, that it runs our lives without us ever questioning it. The lie is this: your value comes from your output, that you are only as worthy as what you produce, that rest is laziness, that leisure is weakness, that if you're not constantly growing, you're dying. And so we hustle not because we're free, but because we're scared of what will happen if we slow down. But here's the paradox: the more we chase productivity, the more enslaved we become. When work becomes your identity, every failure feels like death. Every pause feels like regression. Every moment of rest becomes anxiety. And so we fill our calendars, our minds, our lives until there is no room left for wonder, no space for reflection, no silence. And in that silence, maybe we'd have to face something terrifying: that we built our lives around a lie, that we traded our souls for a salary, that we confused being busy with being alive. And maybe, just maybe, we're too exhausted to even realize it. So I ask you now, not as a philosopher, not as Miss Beast, but as a human being, what are you working for? Not what are you earning, but what are you becoming? Are you building a life or just a lifestyle? Are you living from the inside out or from the outside in? Because if we don't answer these questions honestly, we risk spending our entire existence building someone else's dream while slowly forgetting our own. In the next part, we'll go deeper into how this delusion of endless work was constructed, how it's sold to us, how it seduces us, and how we can begin to dismantle it from the inside out. Let's begin with a hard truth. The system wasn't designed to make you free, it was designed to make you useful. And there's a big difference. From the first day of school, we are conditioned to measure our worth by our performance. We are graded, ranked, and compared, but not for the joy of learning, but to fit into a machine that needs workers, not philosophers. The education system doesn't ask, "Who are you?" It asks, "How employable are you?" And so the message is clear: Your value is external. It lies in your ability to produce for others. And by the time we become adults, we've internalized that message so deeply that we keep working even when no one is watching, because we've come to believe that rest is failure. This is what I call the productivity mirage. It looks like freedom. It feels like progress. But the closer you get, the more it disappears. You wake up early, optimize your time, hustle harder, and still feel like you're not doing enough. But that's not a coincidence. That's the system working as intended. Because if you ever arrived, if you ever truly felt satisfied, you would stop feeding the machine. And the machine cannot afford that. So it moves the goalposts. You get a raise, now you need a title. You start a side hustle, now you need to scale. You hit your fitness goals. Now you need a six-pack and a personal brand. Do you see it? The system doesn't want you to win. It wants you to chase. And the price we pay is massive, not just physically, but spiritually. We lose the ability to be still, to be present, to be human. We become restless, anxious, fragmented, unable to sit alone in a room without reaching for a screen. Why? Because we've been taught that silence is useless. That if we're not doing something, we're wasting time. But here's the paradox. It's in the silence that truth is born. It's in the stillness that creativity emerges. It's in the pause that we hear the whispers of our soul. And yet we avoid it at all costs. We keep moving, keep scrolling, keep working, because we're terrified of what we'll find when we stop. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. What would happen if you stopped working for a week, not just physically, but mentally? No emails, no to-do lists, no goals, just being. Would you feel peace or panic? Joy or despair? Would you feel alive or would you feel irrelevant? If the answer is the latter, then that's not freedom. That's dependency. That's addiction. That's slavery. Because anything you can't walk away from owns you. And if your identity is so tied to your work that you don't know who you are without it, then you're not working a job, you're wearing a collar. This is where the modern illusion becomes most dangerous. Because it's not enforced through fear or force, it's enforced through praise. We celebrate burnout. We glorify grind culture. We treat exhaustion as a badge of honor. But look how busy I am, we say, as if that's proof we matter. But that's not success. That's a cry for help. And deep down, we know it. We know that working 60 hours a week and still feeling empty isn't noble, it's tragic. We know that chasing metrics while neglecting meaning isn't growth, it's decline. So why do we keep doing it? Because stopping feels like death. Because we built our entire sense of self on how much we can endure. But what if endurance isn't the goal? What if the point of life isn't to see how much we can carry, but how much we can let go of? What if the real heroes aren't the ones who grind themselves into dust, but the ones who say, no more? This isn't life. This isn't love. This isn't who I am. What if reclaiming your time, your attention, your breath was the most radical act of rebellion you could commit in a world obsessed with endless output? If that sounds impossible, it's because the system depends on you believing it is. But history shows us otherwise. From the Stoics to the sages, from mystics to revolutionaries, the path to freedom has always required one thing above all: awareness, the ability to see the cage. And once you see it, you can begin to question it, and to challenge it, to walk away from it, not with rage but with clarity, with intention. And in the final part, we'll explore exactly how to do that, how to reclaim your time, how to rediscover meaning, and how to say the one word that terrifies the system more than any protest ever could: enough. There is a door in your life you've probably never opened. It doesn't have a lock, a key, or a code. It's not hidden, but it's ignored. This door leads out of the endless cycle of modern slavery, the one we've been calling success, ambition, or the grind. And the name on that door is simple: enough, not as a resignation, not as defeat, but as a declaration of sovereignty. The moment you say, "I have enough, I am enough, this is enough," you exit the system that feeds on your endless dissatisfaction. And that's when real freedom begins, not when you have everything, but when you no longer need everything to feel whole. You see, the system thrives on your hunger, not your hunger for food, but your hunger for approval, comparison, and significance. It wants you to feel like you're always one step behind, because that's what keeps you spending, striving, consuming. But what if the most radical act isn't to achieve more, but to desire less? What if true wealth isn't measured in your bank account, but in your ability to control your attention? What if freedom isn't found in quitting your job, but in no longer being owned by it emotionally, spiritually, existentially? Let me share a secret the Stoics knew well. The richest human is the one who needs the least. When you stop chasing things you don't need, you begin to rediscover things you forgot you had: your breath, your presence, your relationships, your creativity, your joy. These are not luxuries, they are your birthright. But when you're stuck in endless work, you trade them for deadlines, deliverables, and dopamine hits. You become a ghost in your own body, alive, but not living. So I ask you this: when was the last time you sat under the sky with no agenda? When was the last time you read a book for the sake of your soul, not your resume? We've reached a point where leisure itself feels guilty, where taking a slow walk, or doing nothing, or simply resting feels rebellious. That's not a coincidence, that's cultural programming. Because a person who can sit still is a person who can't be sold to. A person who knows peace doesn't need to chase pleasure. And a person who can be content with less is immune to manipulation. How do you control a person who doesn't need your product, your praise, your promotion? You can't. And that's why awareness is the ultimate threat to the system. But awareness alone isn't enough. You need courage. The courage to unplug, to say no, to disappoint people, to choose depth over speed, meaning over metrics, rest over reputation. And yes, it will cost you. You may lose status, you may lose approval, you may even lose income. But what you gain is far greater: the return of yourself. And with it, something even rarer in our age: clarity. Clarity of thought, clarity of desire, clarity of purpose. That's the real treasure at the end of this path. Not escape, but embodiment. Not retreat, but return to yourself, to your values, to your life. So here's what I challenge you to do. First, examine your relationship with work. Be brutally honest. Are you working from love or from fear? On purpose or from pressure? If it's fear, ask where it comes from. If it's pressure, ask who benefits from your exhaustion. Second, set sacred boundaries. Start small. Carve out 1 hour a day that belongs to you fully and unapologetically. But no screens, no noise, just you and your thoughts. Third, create meaning outside of output. Rediscover hobbies. Reconnect with people. Reclaim your soul's curiosity. These are not distractions from life, but they are life. And finally, speak the word the system dreads, enough. Say it not with bitterness, but with power. Say it when you're tempted to overwork. Say it when you feel the need to prove yourself. Say it when the world tries to monetize your attention. Enough. Because in that word is a revolution, not of violence but of vision. A revolution where you no longer measure your life by how much you do, but by how deeply you live. A revolution where you take back time, not just to slow down but to wake up. And once you've woken up, the chains of modern slavery, no matter how golden, can no longer hold you. Thank you for watching. If this message stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Reflect, act, share. Because the more of us who say enough, the sooner we build a world where freedom is no longer an illusion but a lived reality.